When my brother's wedding got expensive, my parents secretly transferred my house into their names and sold it while I was out of state. They claimed it was fair because I'm always the responsible one. I'm 30 years old and work as a risk assessment consultant for a manufacturing company. Bought my first house 2 years ago in Lower Marion Township. Nice 3-bedroom colonial, put down 20%, financed the rest, been making payments like clockwork ever since. My parents have always had a favorite kid, and it sure as hell wasn't me. Dad's 57, mom's 54, and my younger brother Drake is 26. They paid his full ride at a state school. I got loans I'm still chipping away at. They bought him a nearly new sedan when he turned 21. I saved for 2 years working warehouse shifts to afford a used truck. I had this flash of memory while all this was going down. I was 8 years old and had saved up doing odd jobs around the neighborhood. Saved it for weeks to buy this remote control car I'd been obsessing over. Drake was 4 and wanted the same car. I came home from school and found my piggy bank empty. Mom explained that Drake really wanted that car and I was old enough to understand sharing. Drake got the car. I got a lecture about being mature and putting family first. That was the template. Had been the entire time. Drake got engaged 8 months ago to this woman, Luna, 25. Nice enough. They're both still figuring out careers. Drake does social media management for a local fitness chain. Luna works part-time at a salon doing nails and lashes. Nothing wrong with that, except they're planning this massive destination wedding in Costa Rica that's running mom and dad serious money. 3 weeks ago, I left for Ohio. Major assessment project at a manufacturing plant outside Cleveland with serious compliance issues. 3-week assignment. Big project, good visibility, exactly the kind of work that builds a career. Before leaving, I asked my parents if they could swing by the house, occasionally water the plants, grab the mail, standard neighbor stuff. They had spare keys from when they helped me move in. Of course, honey, mom said, all warmth and smiles. We'll take good care of everything. Should have caught the weird energy when dad kept drilling me about my exact travel dates. When was I leaving? What time was my flight? When exactly was I coming back? Did my neighbors have my contact info? Did anyone else have keys? I figured he was just paranoid about break-ins. Turns out he was planning the break-in himself. I was 4 days into the Ohio project, mid-meeting with plant management about their ventilation hazards, when my phone started buzzing. Unknown local number. Ignored it. Buzzed again. Then a text from a number I did recognize. Rosalie, my neighbor 2 houses down. We'd been friendly for about a year. She's 32, runs a freelance graphic design business from home, lives alone with a very judgmental cat named Chairman. Her text was short. Call me when you can. Something weird is happening at your place. I excused myself from the meeting and called her back from the parking lot. Hey Rosalie, what's going on? Okay, so don't panic. But there's a sold pending rider on a for sale sign in your yard, and there are people moving furniture into your house right now. I stopped walking. Say that again. There's a moving truck in your driveway. 2 guys are carrying boxes inside. I saw your parents here earlier with a couple I don't recognize walking them through like they owned the place. Your mom told them they could start bringing things over since the paperwork was almost done. I thought maybe you sold it and didn't mention it, but then I thought that seems really unlike you, so I'm calling. My hands went cold. What do the people look like? The couple 30s, maybe? Woman's blonde, guys, tall, dark hair. They look excited. They have a kid with them, maybe 5 or 6. The movers are unloading a couch right now. Can you see my parents? Your dad left about 20 minutes ago. Your mom is still here talking to the blonde woman on your front porch like they're best friends. I pulled up my doorbell camera app. Took a second to load because the hotel Wi-Fi was garbage. When it finally connected, I saw exactly what Rosalie described. My mother standing on my front porch, gesturing at my house like a realtor showing off a property. A woman I'd never seen before nodding and smiling. In the background, 2 movers were carrying my patio furniture past my kitchen window. Pulled up my smart lock logs. 4 entries in the past week, all from my parents' code. The last entry was 2 hours ago. Rosalie, I need you to do something for me. Anything. Take photos if you can do it safely. Plates on the moving truck. Plates on any cars in the driveway. Timestamp everything. Don't approach anyone. If they ask what you're doing, just say you're documenting for the neighborhood watch. Are you okay? I'm going to handle this. Thank you for calling. Seriously, if you need me to go knock on the door or... No, please don't. I'm not losing a good neighbor because my parents decided to audition for bad decisions. Just eyes and photos. That's it. Got it. Calling you back in 10 with pictures. I hung up and stared at my phone for about 30 seconds trying to process what was happening. My parents were actively helping strangers move into my house while I was 400 miles away without my knowledge, without my permission. Called my parents. Dad picked up on the third ring. Hey, sport, how's Ohio treating you? Cut it. What's happening at my house? Silence. Then I heard him say something muffled to someone else. Mom's voice in the background. We were going to talk to you about this when you got back. Talk to me now. Why are there strangers moving into my house? Another pause. We made a difficult decision while you were away. Drake's wedding is next month, and we've hit some major vendor deadlines. The final venue payment, the travel packages for guests, the upgraded reception package. It all came due at once, and we were running out of options. What does that have to do with my house? We found a buyer young family very motivated. They're in a bind with their rental situation and needed to start the transition. We worked out an arrangement where they could begin moving some things in while we handled the final paperwork. With your equity, you'll walk away with enough to restart elsewhere. That's enough. You listed my house without my permission. Not listed exactly. We found someone through a contact. Very private transaction. The important thing is, how did you sign the paperwork? It's not your house. Your names aren't on the deed. I heard Mom's voice clearly now closer to the phone. Family assets belong to everyone, honey. We raised you. We helped you when you were struggling, and now Drake needs help starting his life with Luna. This is how families work. Family assets belong to everyone. I repeated slowly. That's your position. It's not a position, it's reality. We're a family unit. What benefits one benefits all. Drake deserves a beautiful wedding, and you've always been the responsible one who figures things out. You'll be fine. My voice went cold, but my hands were shaking. I'm going to call you back in 5 minutes. Don't move. Don't touch anything. Don't say a word to anyone. Now, son, there's no need to be dramatic. I hung up, called Rosalie back. Status. Got plates, timestamps, photos of your mom with the blonde woman, shots of the movers, everything. Your mom saw me taking pictures and waved like we were best friends. I waved back, didn't engage. Send everything to my email. I'm going to need it. Already done. What's your play here? Calling 911, then calling a lawyer, then figuring out how my parents committed real estate fraud fast enough that movers are already inside. Be careful. Always am. I called 911 and explained the situation as calmly as possible. Unauthorized persons were moving belongings into my home. I was the sole owner. I was out of state. I could provide documentation immediately. The dispatcher was professional and said an officer would respond. Then I called my company's legal department, explained I had a family emergency involving real estate fraud, and needed contact information for an attorney who handles this specific situation in Montgomery County. They came through fast, gave me a name, Rebecca Walsh, real estate fraud specialist, former prosecutor. I called her office and her paralegal picked up. I need to speak with Rebecca Walsh immediately. It's about an active real estate fraud situation involving my primary residence, Miss. Walsh is in a meeting, but I can. I'm the recorded owner of a property in Montgomery County. My parents are currently helping strangers move into my house without my knowledge or permission. There's an active transaction happening right now. I need someone who can file emergency motions today. She put me on hold. 15 seconds later, Rebecca Walsh picked up. This is Rebecca. Tell me everything. I laid it out. The timeline, the doorbell footage, the movers, the phone call with my parents, their justification. She listened without interrupting. Okay, first question. Are you the sole owner on the deed? Yes. Purchased 2 years ago. Only my name on the title. Second question. Did you give your parents power of attorney at any point? No, nothing like that. They had house keys and garage codes but no legal authority over the property. Third question. When are you back in Pennsylvania? I can be on a flight in 3 hours. Do it. In the meantime, I'm filing an emergency motion to halt any closing or transfer. I'll need you to email me the deed, your mortgage statement, driver's license, and any communication with your parents about this. Can you do that from where you are? Already pulling the files. Good. This is straightforward fraud, but the fact that they're family complicates the emotional angle. It doesn't complicate the legal angle. In Pennsylvania, forgery involving a deed can be graded as a felony of the 3rd degree. Add identity theft if they used your information to sign documents, and you're looking at stacked charges. I need to know right now if you're prepared to pursue this criminally. Yes. No hesitation. None. All right. Send me everything. I'm contacting the title company next to put a hold on whatever transaction they're processing. Get home as fast as you can. I sent the documents, booked a flight, then I called my parents back. Dad answered. We need to have a reasonable conversation about this. I'm going to talk, you're going to listen. I just got off the phone with a real estate fraud attorney. I'm filing an emergency motion to stop whatever closing you've arranged. I've contacted police. I have photographic evidence of unauthorized persons entering my property and documentation of what you just told me on this call. This is ridiculous. We're your parents. We're not criminals. You sold property that isn't yours. You forged documents to make that happen. That's textbook fraud. In Pennsylvania, that's a felony. Mom's voice came through, shrill now but with an edge of fear. We didn't forge anything. We're helping you see the bigger picture. Drake's wedding is important, and you're acting selfish. We thought you'd understand once you calm down. Family assets belong to everyone, I said. That's still your position. Yes. Then I guess we'll let a judge decide if my house counts as a family asset. I'll be home in 6 hours. 60? Don't go near my property. Don't contact the buyers. Don't touch anything. If you do, every additional action adds to the charges. I hung up, checked my doorbell camera again. A police cruiser had pulled up. An officer was talking to my mother on the front porch. The blonde woman and her husband had come outside looking confused. The movers had stopped unloading and were standing by the truck looking like they wanted to be literally anywhere else. My phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Is this the homeowner? Man's voice. Professional. Yes. Who's this? Officer Brennan Lower, Marion Township. I'm at your residence now. Your mother is saying you gave verbal permission for this arrangement and that you're going through some difficulties. Can you verify your identity and ownership? I'm the sole recorded owner. I purchased the property in 2023. I can email you a copy of my deed, my mortgage statement, my driver's license, and proof that I'm currently in Ohio for work. I did not give permission for any sale or transfer. I didn't know anything about this until my neighbor called me 40 minutes ago. Send everything to this email address. He rattled it off. Your mother is insisting this is a misunderstanding. It's fraud. I have an attorney filing emergency motions right now. Her name is Rebecca Walsh. I'm flying back tonight. Understood. I'm going to secure the property and separate the parties. The buyers are pretty upset. I'll cover any reasonable costs they've incurred because of this. They didn't do anything wrong? Noted. Send that documentation as soon as possible. I sent everything from my phone. My phone started blowing up. Drake calling, my mom calling, my dad calling. Drake again. I ignored all of it. Focused on getting to the airport. Got a text from Rosalie. Police are still there. Your mom is crying. The couple with the kid looked devastated. Movers left. Your dad just pulled up and he's arguing with the officer. Want me to keep documenting? Please. Everything. 40 minutes later, I was at the airport. Checked my email. Rebecca had already filed the emergency motion and sent me a copy. She'd also sent an email to the title company with my documentation requesting they halt any pending transfer and investigate the chain of title. The title company responded within the hour saying they were freezing all activity on the file pending review of potential irregularities in the recent deed transfer. Got another text from Rosalie. Your parents just left. Police are talking to the buyers. They're crying. This is brutal. I called her. You doing okay? I'm fine. I'm just really confused how your parents thought this was going to work. They thought I'd roll over because I always roll over. This time, they miscalculated. What happens next? I fly home. I meet with my attorney. We figure out what the hell they did and how to undo it. My guest room is empty if you need it. Not being weird, just practical. You'll want to be close, and honestly, I'm invested now. I hesitated. Accepting help still felt foreign. That's really generous. Are you sure? I'm sure. Chairman will judge you silently, but he judges everyone. You'll survive. All right. Thank you. I'll text you when I land. Officer Brennan told me not to go back to the house until they finished clearing the scene and filing their report. And honestly, after watching strangers carry furniture past my windows on camera, I wasn't walking into that driveway at night not knowing who might still be there. Got on the plane, spent the flight reading Pennsylvania real estate fraud law on my phone and writing down every detail I could remember. Every conversation, every weird question my parents had asked before I left. Every time they'd pressured me about helping Drake. Every time they'd used the phrase family assets like it was some kind of religious doctrine. Landed in Philly at 9 p.m. Rosalie picked me up from the airport. She was quiet on the drive, which I appreciated. Didn't push for details, just drove. My truck was still at my house, but I wasn't ready to deal with that scene yet. Your parents called my cell phone, she said, when we were about 10 minutes from her place. I don't know how they got the number. What did they say? Your mom wanted to know what I told you. Said there's been a misunderstanding and I'm making it worse by getting involved. I told her I didn't tell you anything except what I saw. Then your dad got on the phone and said I should be careful about interfering in family business. That was a threat. I know what a threat sounds like. I told him to lose my number and hung up. Then I blocked them both because I don't have time for that drama. I'm sorry they dragged you into this. Don't be. This is the most interesting thing that's happened to me in months, and I clearly picked the right side. We got to her place. Small townhouse, well-maintained, tastefully decorated. Chairman was indeed very judgmental. He stared at me from the back of the couch like I owed him money. Guest room is upstairs. First door on the left. Bathroom is across the hall. Help yourself to anything in the kitchen. Thank you. Seriously, I barely slept. Spent most of the night going through emails on my laptop and documenting everything. Around 3 a.m., I got an email from Rebecca Walsh. Subject line, you need to see this. She attached a PDF. It was a quit-claim deed filed with the Montgomery County Recorder of Deeds office 5 days ago, just after I left for Ohio. The deed transferred ownership of my property from me to my parents. Joint tenants with right of survivorship. The signature at the bottom was supposed to be mine. It wasn't even close. Whoever forged it had practiced, but not enough. The letter formations were wrong. The pressure was different. But more importantly, the acknowledgement section showed it had been notarized on a date when I was physically in Ohio. I could prove that with flight records, hotel receipts, and time-stamped photos from the plant I was assessing. Rebecca had compared the signature to my mortgage documents. The forged version looked like someone had traced an old signature and tried to recreate it freehand, shaky in places where mine was fluid, too careful in others where mine was quick. Rebecca's email explained the rest. Once the fraudulent deed was filed, and my parents appeared as owners in the public record, they could list the property, sign the sale agreement, and arrange the transaction without needing me there at all. They'd essentially stolen the house on paper first, then sold it. The notary who stamped it either didn't verify identity properly or falsified the acknowledgement entirely. The buyer was a young family from Delaware County. They'd sold their previous home and had cash from that sale. Earnest money deposit held in escrow scheduled to close in 8 days. At 6 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. Rosalie was already up, working at her kitchen table with coffee and Chairman, supervising from a nearby chair. You look terrible, she said. Didn't sleep. Found out how they did it, though. Filed a fraudulent deed, transferring ownership from me to them, then listed and sold it as if they actually owned it. That's insane. She poured me coffee without asking. What's your move today? Meeting with my attorney at 9, filing police reports, undoing this mess. Need to grab my truck from my place at some point too. You want me to come with? Extra set of eyes. Moral support. I hesitated again. Old habits. You've already done more than enough. I'm offering. Besides, Chairman needs some alone time to plot world domination, and I'm curious how this plays out. All right. Thanks. We met Rebecca at her office in King of Prussia. She was late 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She had the case laid out across her conference table when we arrived. Before we start, I need to know your goals here. Civil recovery, criminal prosecution, both. Both. That's going to be ugly. Your parents will likely face felony charges, third-degree felony for the deed forgery, potentially additional charges for identity theft by deception and filing false documents. We're talking potential prison time if the DA decides to prosecute. And if I only pursue civil, you can sue for damages. But the criminal aspect doesn't disappear just because you don't pursue it. Once we file the police report and show evidence of felony fraud, the DA's office can decide to prosecute independently. They take deed fraud seriously in this county, so either way, they're facing criminal charges. Most likely, yes. The forgery is documented. The notary situation makes it worse because someone notarized a document claiming you signed it, but you were provably out of state at the time. We'll need to identify that notary. She walked me through the next steps. Emergency hearing in 2 days to void the fraudulent deed and halt the sale. Criminal complaint with the DA's office. The buyers would get their earnest money back from escrow. Civil damages would be calculated and pursued separately once the criminal case established the fraud as fact. The buyers are victims here too. Rebecca said they acted in good faith based on fraudulent paperwork. I reached out to their attorney this morning. They're devastated, but they understand the situation isn't your fault. I want to talk to them if possible. Make sure they know I'm going to cover their actual losses from this. I can arrange that, but it'll take a day or two to coordinate schedules and make sure everyone's comfortable with the meeting. The wait was frustrating, but I understood. Later that afternoon, Rosalie drove me to my house so I could finally get my truck. Police tape was still up, but the property was clear. Grabbed my keys from inside, started the truck, and followed Rosalie back to her place. The day before the emergency hearing, I drove to my parents' house with Rosalie, not for support but as a witness. They needed to understand what was coming before they walked into that courtroom. I found them in their living room. Drake was there too, sitting on the couch with his phone. They all looked up when I walked in. Nobody smiled. "We need to talk," Dad started. "No, you need to listen." I pulled a folder from under my arm and set it on the coffee table. "What's that?" Mom asked. "Open it." Dad reached for it, pulled out the first document. His face went white. He flipped through the pages. Emergency motion. Criminal complaint reference number. Screenshots from my doorbell camera with timestamps. Photos Rosalie had taken with license plates visible. The forged deed with Rebecca's comparison analysis attached. "After everything we spent raising you," Mom said quietly, her voice shaking, "you're really doing this." Read page 4. That's the part where the DA explains how forgery involving a deed can be graded as a third-degree felony. Then read page 7. That's where my attorney estimates damages, including what you cost the Collins family. Their kid was going to have a purple room with stars. Drake's face had gone pale. He was staring at his phone like it might save him, but his hands weren't moving. "You knew," I said to Drake. "Mom and Dad told you what they were planning." "I didn't. I mean, they said they were figuring something out, but I didn't think they'd actually." "You knew they were talking about my house and you didn't warn me." Drake's face went red. "What was I supposed to do?" "They're paying for my wedding. I can't just—" "They said you'd be fine. Said you'd always land on your feet. So you stayed quiet while they committed fraud because it benefited you." "Family takes care of each other," Dad said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "You were trying to steal from me to fund his wedding. That's not family. That's just theft with a warm backstory. Family assets belong to everyone," Mom said again, but now it sounded rehearsed, desperate. "Then I'm claiming your retirement as communal property. Fair trade." The room went silent. Drake was still staring at his phone. Dad had gone from white to red. Mom was crying, but it looked different now, more real. "The hearing is tomorrow at 10 a.m., I said. "You should probably bring your lawyer, and that notary who stamped fraudulent paperwork while I was in another state should probably get one too." I left the folder on the table and walked out. Rosalie followed. We didn't say anything until we were back in the truck. "That was brutal," she said. "Had to be done. And now I know Drake was part of it. Think he'll show up tomorrow?" "Probably. Can't help himself." The meeting with the buyers happened the next morning before the hearing. Their names were David and Claire Collins. Their daughter was 6 years old, named Sophie. They'd sold their previous house and been renting temporarily while looking for the right place. Found mine through someone my parents knew who worked in real estate. Scraped together everything for the purchase. They'd already given notice at their rental. Already enrolled Sophie in the local school district. The whole plan hinged on moving in next week. Claire cried. David kept apologizing to me like any of this was his fault. "I'm so sorry," David kept saying. "We had no idea." "This isn't on you," I said. "You did everything right. My parents committed fraud and you got caught in the aftermath. I'm going to make sure you don't lose money over this." "What about temporary housing?" Claire asked. "We gave notice. Our lease is up in 2 weeks. Rebecca stepped in. "We're going to document all your losses. That includes your moving costs, any lost deposits, temporary housing expenses, everything. Once the criminal case establishes the fraud, we'll pursue full damages through civil court." Sophie was sitting in a chair by the window coloring. She looked up. "We were going to do purple with stars." "That sounds beautiful," Rosalie said quietly. The meeting ended with the Collins agreeing to cooperate with whatever legal action was needed. They left looking devastated, but at least not angry at me. The emergency hearing was that afternoon. Judge's name was Wong. Late 50s sharp, clearly someone who'd seen every variation of human stupidity. She listened to Rebecca's opening statement, reviewed the evidence we'd submitted, then turned to my parents' attorney. Some guy named Donald who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Counselor, help me understand your client's position. They're listed as grantees on a quitclaim deed dated 5 days after the plaintiff departed for an out-of-state work assignment. The deed bears what your clients claim is the plaintiff's signature, notarized on a date when the plaintiff can prove through multiple sources that he was physically in Ohio. Then your clients initiated a sale of this property. What's your defense?" Donald cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my clients maintain that there was an understanding within the family that the property would be considered shared." "An understanding? Was this understanding documented in any way? A written agreement? A recorded deed executed by the plaintiff while he was still in Pennsylvania? Any evidence of this understanding beyond your client's say-so?" "Family relationships have certain." "Counselor, we're talking about real property, not a borrowed car, not a verbal promise, a recorded deed with a notarized signature. Are you prepared to argue that your clients reasonably believed they could transfer title based on a verbal family understanding? Donald looked like he wanted to dissolve into the floor. Your Honor, my clients acted with the belief that they were helping their son manage his assets during a difficult time. What difficult time? The plaintiff was on a work assignment. He was employed current on his mortgage and by all accounts managing his assets perfectly well. Your clients filed a deed bearing what appears to be a forged signature, then initiated a sale without the actual owner's knowledge. How is any of that help? My mother started crying in the gallery, loud shaking sobs. Judge Wong looked over her reading glasses. Ma'am, if you can't control yourself, I'll have you removed. Rebecca presented the financial records showing months of attempted fraud credit checks, utility applications, attempted employment interference. Judge Wong's expression got harder with each page. Counselor, are your clients aware that what we're looking at here potentially constitutes multiple felonies under Pennsylvania law? Forgery of a deed can be graded as a third-degree felony. Identity theft, filing false documents. Are your clients prepared for the criminal investigation that will follow this hearing? Donald looked at my parents. My dad was staring at the table. My mom had stopped the dramatic sobbing and looked genuinely terrified. Now here's my ruling. The quitclaim deed filed 5 days ago is void. Title remains solely with the plaintiff, as originally recorded. The attempted sale is canceled effective immediately. The buyer's earnest money will be returned from escrow with any accrued interest. I'm referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. The notary who stamped this document will also be subject to investigation. Clerk will provide copies of all relevant documents to the DA. We're adjourned. My parents tried to approach me in the hallway. My dad looked angry but scared underneath it. This is going to destroy our lives, he said. You destroyed your own lives. I'm just refusing to be destroyed with you. Drake's wedding is in 3 weeks. Do you understand what you're doing to him? I understand that you tried to steal my house to pay for it. That's what I understand. My mom grabbed my arm. Please, we can fix this. We'll pay you back somehow. Just talk to the DA. Tell them we made a mistake. I didn't file the criminal charges. The judge referred it to the DA. Even if I wanted to drop it, which I don't, I couldn't. You're going to send us to prison. No, you're going to prison because you committed multiple felonies. I'm just not lying for you anymore. They left with Donald trailing behind them. Rebecca and I went to her office. Civil damages will take time to calculate properly, she said. Once we document everything and the criminal case establishes the fraud pattern, we'll file for summary judgment. That's probably 3 to 4 months out. How much are we talking? Collins's documented losses, your legal fees, credit monitoring security system upgrades, any temporary housing costs they incur. Probably in the range of $70,000 to $80,000 total. They don't have that. I know, but we're getting a judgment anyway. We can pursue collection against recoverable assets once we have it. Good. Over the next few months, the legal machinery ground forward. The DA filed charges. Arraignment happened. My parents pleaded not guilty. Preliminary hearing bound them over for trial. The notary investigation revealed negligent practices, but stopped short of criminal charges for the notary herself. She'd apparently stamped the document based on someone presenting ID, but the investigation couldn't prove she knew it was fraudulent. Still, she lost her commission. Drake's wedding was postponed, then canceled entirely. Luna ended the engagement once she understood the full scope. She'd apparently had no idea until everything became public. My parents' financial situation deteriorated. Legal fees piled up. They had to sell things, downsize. Their retirement evaporated. They moved from their house to a smaller rental before the trial even started. The trial took 3 days. Prosecution presented their case methodically. Defense tried to argue confusion and family emergency, but couldn't overcome the documented evidence. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Sentencing was 2 weeks later. Judge gave my dad 4 years in state prison. Mom got 3 years. Both would be eligible for parole after serving minimum terms, but they'd be convicted felons for life. I sat in the courtroom for the sentencing. Drake was there with some people I didn't recognize, my Aunt Carol and Uncle Jim. Drake stared at me the entire time. When the judge read the sentences, Drake stood up. Are you happy now? They're going to prison because you couldn't let it go. The judge banged his gavel. Sit down, or you'll join them for contempt. Drake sat down but kept staring. After the sentencing, he cornered me in the hallway. I hope you can live with yourself. You destroyed our parents' lives. You destroyed my relationship. You destroyed this family. No, they committed multiple felonies. They stole from me. They tried to destroy my credit. This isn't about a house. It's about them viewing me as something to exploit. We're family. Family is supposed to forgive. Family doesn't steal from family. And you knew what they were planning. That makes you part of it. You're cold just like Dad. No, I'm nothing like Dad. I have boundaries. I don't commit felonies against people I'm supposed to care about. He walked away. Haven't heard from him since. Rebecca filed the civil suit and got summary judgment 4 months after sentencing. $73,000 in damages. My parents couldn't pay from prison. After release, they'd be on payment plans for decades assuming they could find work as convicted felons. The Collins found another house, eventually reached out to thank me for covering their documented expenses through the civil recovery. Rosalie and I started dating officially about 6 months after everything settled. Nothing dramatic, just a natural progression from neighbors to friends to something more. She understood what I'd been through because she'd witnessed it. She had her own history too, reasons she valued honest communication and clear boundaries. We worked because neither of us needed the other to be perfect just present. 8 months after sentencing, I went to visit my parents in prison, not to reconcile, to make something absolutely clear. They brought my mom out first. She looked older, thinner. Prison had changed her. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "I'm not here for a reunion. I'm here to tell you something and I need you to hear it. What you did wasn't help. It was theft. You saw me as a resource. You saw my house as something you could take. That's not how any of this works." She started crying. "I know. I've had time to think in here. When you get out, we're not going to have a relationship. I'm not going to take your calls. I'm not going to come to family events. You made that choice when you forged my signature. But we're family. No. You're people who raised me and then betrayed me. That's not family. Drake's struggling. He lost everything. Can you please?" "No. Drake made his choices. He knew what you were planning and stayed quiet. He's dealing with his own consequences." I stood up. She reached across the table but stopped herself. "I'm sorry," she said. "Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, though." They brought my dad out next. He looked harder, angry, like prison had just concentrated everything bitter in him. "Come to gloat," he asked. "Come to make something clear. You made choices, you're living with the results. You put your own parents in prison. Over property rights, over trust. You never saw me as your son. You saw me as funding for Drake's life. Drake needed help. So did I. But when it came to choosing between Drake's wants and my actual rights, you picked him every time. He needed more. I was self-sufficient because you forced me to be. Then you punished me for it by deciding my independence meant you could take whatever you wanted." He stared at me. "So this is it. You're done." "I was done the moment you filed that fraudulent deed. You're exactly like me. Cold. No. I have boundaries. I have integrity. I don't commit felonies against people I claim to love." I left without saying goodbye, drove back to Rosalie's place. She was waiting with coffee. Chairman had fully accepted me by this point and claimed my lap as his territory whenever possible. "How'd it go?" she asked. I said what I needed to say. "That's done. How do you feel?" "Lighter." My phone buzzed. Text from Drake. "Thanks for nothing. Mom's having a hard time and Dad's getting into problems. Hope you're proud." I showed it to Rosalie. Thoughts. Block him. I blocked Drake's number. Blocked my parents' prison contact methods. Blocked every relative who'd taken their side, created distance. My parents served their time. Both got out on good behavior after minimum terms. Drake tried reaching out through someone we both knew once. Said he wanted to apologize. I told the person I wasn't interested. When my parents got out, they were broke, convicted felons with limited prospects. Drake didn't offer to help them, said he couldn't afford it, said he needed to focus on rebuilding his own life. The kid who'd been worth stealing for suddenly had boundaries when it cost him something. They ended up in subsidized housing, working jobs they could get with records, living the consequences they built. I still live in the house, made it fully mine in ways that matter. Rosalie moved in last year, brought Chairman and all her design equipment. We split everything equally. Partnership instead of dependence, respect instead of exploitation. Sometimes people ask if I regret what happened, if I wish I'd handled it differently, if I ever think about reconciling. The answer is always no. They made their choices. I made mine. Mine involved protecting myself and holding people accountable. Theirs involved theft and lies and expecting me to accept it because we shared DNA. I chose correctly, and I'd choose the same way every single time.